Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this seminar series. It's my great pleasure and honor to welcome Professor Viswanadham here. In fact, I know him for more than 2 decades. And all of his students might also know him in his book, which is one of the performance modeling of automated manufacturing systems. So Professor Viswanadham is an INSS senior scientist in the Computer Science and Automation Department at the Indian Institute of Science. He was a professor and executive director at the Indian School of Business during 2006 and 11. He was also deputy executive director of the Logistics Institute and also professor at NUS during 1998-2005. He started his career with the Indian Institute of Science. He was in fact there also as the chairman of the department from 1990 to 1996. So needless to say, he had made very significant contributions in the area of manufacturing, logistics, supply chains, and based on he has got several awards, including the 1996 ISC Alumni Award, Distinguished Alumni Award in 2009, and also 2012 INA Professor Esteemed Memorial Award. He is a fellow of IEEE, fellow of Indian National Science Academy, Indian Academy of Sciences, and Indian National Academy of Engineering, and the Third World Academy of Sciences. So several accolades. So these days, in fact, for the last 6 months, he's working on the startup ecosystem and what is really affecting the startups and whether it is sustainable in the long run and so on and so forth. So we are taking much of your time. I think we'll get started.
I'm very happy to be here. I mean, I know Professor Agram. He was my student, and it so happened, although I'm working in supply chain manufacturing, and I met all these people in several other forums. First time I'm visiting IIM Yale. This is, it is a surprise even for myself, and I'm very glad to be here. And thanks very much for inviting me to give this seminar. Now, the way I'm going to talk to you about business models. So the way I came up, I used to. Last 10 years, I used to give a course on global supply chain management, and I started in Indian School of Business. And afterwards, I was teaching at IIM Indore. I was talking at National University of Singapore. And this one, there is a book which came out in 2013 on global supply chain ecosystems and so on. So when I was looking at, all of us know it is not the products anymore, it is supply chain versus supply chain. The competitiveness depends on your supply chain, not the products. But recently there is a change in this phenomenon. And if you look at the industry models, everybody wants to have assets, everybody wants to have R&D, everybody wants to have patents and all that. But is that the sustainable model of the future? The answer is no. So there is a tremendous amount of change in the industry structure that is going to happen. And I mean, this is not my prediction, but it is based on the empirical data that I collected. These are some of the findings. And I will try to give my own theory which can be followed. So I'll talk about the current industry scenario, and then the startup scenario in India. It is the third largest startup in the world. And then I'll talk about the business models, their definitions, and examples of successful business models and patterns. And I'll talk about GRIP framework, which is my own. GRIP stands for G, governance, R for risk, I for innovation, P for performance. So I'll show you the slides and then conclude this lecture. What is the current industry scenario? If you look at any industry, you can pick auto, you can pick cell phones, laptops, electronics, whatever, apparels. Business model is a description of how a company does business and makes money. That's very simple. That's the definition of how do you make money and how do you do the business. Every business, SME or MNC, employs a business model that describes it. whether they know it or not. SME may not know, startup may not know what their business model is, but they have either a product or service to sell, and they sell it, and they want to make profit and gain from it. So they deliver it to the customers, entices them to pay, and converts the payments into profits. I mean, this is the basic philosophy. What is the world business model? World business model is possess tangible assets. Manufacturing, distribution, and win through product innovation, scale, lean, efficient processes, and better execution. That's what we teach, right? In the supply chain, you manufacture, you distribute, you retail, and the logistics, everything is through lean, efficient processes, and you want to execute it better. And then labor protections, minimum wage, worker safety, insurance, and so on. They are part of the employee structure. So labor is a part of the employee structure. And favor closed innovation model. You have your own product R&D. You want to support your own innovation. It is closed. You don't want to share with anybody. The price is everything. The customer buys if the price is low, and the producers will supply if the price is cost plus, and so on. So this is what you take marketing, you take operations, you take strategy. This summarizes the world industry model. This model is now less valuable. It is changing. It is not valuable. Why? New technologies are creating new industry giants. Rise of startups using ordinary resources. You don't have patents, you don't have any big R&D and so on. You use ordinary resources, motorbike, wallas, or some internet mobile apps, whatever, very ordinary things you use, and they are alarming the established industry players. You can give the examples. Traditional firms sharing the same supply chains as e-companies are in trouble. Now, Amazon sells a book. You buy it from Amazon. Barnes & Noble sells the same book, but it went bankrupt. There is Samsung shops here. They sell the cell phone. Flipkart sells the same cell phone. You buy it from Flipkart, and you don't buy it from the retail store. Why? So they are in trouble. Competition now seems to be between business models and not between products or supply chains. So this is where we said products should be good, and afterwards manufacturing, scale, flexible manufacturing, and afterwards we came to supply chains and logistics and all that. And now we say, look, it's not enough if you have a good supply chain. Barnes & Noble had the same supply chain as Amazon. Samsung has the same supply chain as Amazon. You buy from Amazon, you don't buy from the retail store. So what is that business model? That's what it is. And these new technologies which we talk about, they are the ones which are contributing to this. They are mobile internet, IoT is Internet of Things, cloud, big data analytics, 3D printing. 3D printing is changing the service industry. Service industry, the spare parts is a big industry, and they make more money than original parts. So that is changing with the 3D printing. 3D printing is basically you have the design, it will just print and make the part. So you need not have to store them, or you don't have to inventory them. So 3D printing is changing the service industry. Blockchain. How many of you heard of blockchain? Bitcoin is the future currency. And between us, a lot of people have bought Bitcoins with world 1,000 and 500 notes. So this is a digital currency that is. And for people like us, where supply chain and other things are important, supply chain finance is getting disrupted. Nobody is going to the banks anymore for letter of credit and all that. Their blockchain is different. Digital wallets, banks are getting unbundled. So, I mean, original banks are going to disappear. The way they are going to disappear in the next 5 years. So, retail is taken over by the wallets, and all the financing of the companies is being taken over by these blockchain holders. So, like this, several things are happening with this. But of course, drones are supplying to homes. So, driverless cars and trucks, they are going to disrupt a lot of things. So, all these are all the new technologies that are happening. So, what are the game-changing disruptive innovations? E-commerce is disrupting traditional retail. Uber and Ola are driving out radio and yellow taxis. Airbnb has hotels very concerned. Swiggy is disrupting high-end restaurants. You have Swiggy here. Swiggy is basically a food distributor. So you can give whatever I need, this from this restaurant, this biryani from this, you get this curry from here and so on. They will get and deliver the whole thing to you. So you need not have to go to the big restaurants. This is their very popular. Bitcoin is the future currency. Amazon, Alibaba, and DHL are testing drone package delivery. Driverless cars are a boon to traffic congestion. Future of medicine is in your smartphone. And Genpack monitors Penske truck loading, unloading, drivers, and freight movement and delivery. Genpack in Hyderabad, it monitors Penske, which is a truck company in the US, which transfers all the auto components from all over the US to Detroit. Which driver goes to which truck, what route the truck takes. If the driver has to pay some money somewhere, who swipes the credit card, it is swiped in Hyderabad. So all this monitoring of the entire operations of 15,000 trucks, 20,000 drivers is done by two Genpack WPOs, one from Hyderabad, another from Mexico. So another change that is happening is products and assets or ownership is not important. 90% of the business models are recombinations of existing concepts of ordinary resources. In other words, in the business model, you do not have to do any original research and all that. You find out a corresponding thing. For example, Henry Ford had this assembly line. Where did he get the assembly line concept from? He got it from a pig meat supply chain. He was watching that and said, why not I do the same thing for the assembly line auto supply chain? That's how he got it. Digital platforms connect service providers and customers. Taxi company Uber has no taxis. Largest accommodation Airbnb has no properties. Alibaba has no inventory. Largest communication companies Skype, WhatsApp, they don't have any infrastructure. Media platform Facebook creates no content. You create the content for them. Netflix owns no cinemas. Zipdial, how many of you know about Zipdial? It's a missed call startup from Bangalore. You must be watching TV, and there are this one that if you want to buy this kitchen equipment or something, in the next half an hour it is 4,000 rupees. Usually it is 4,000. Now in the next half hour it is 2,999 and so on. You give us a missed call. Then if you give a missed call, all of us think it will go to that manufacturer, but it will go to Zipdial. And Zipdial has content which can deliver, or they will tell the fellows, hey, this guy is calling, you should do it. So these fellows are basically, it is acquired by Twitter for $30 million. So human resources are on contract, not employees. You should change in the business model. Earlier business model is products, assets. It's not anymore. The second thing is human resources are a part of your cost structure, not anymore. There are lots of cases on Uber, Ola, and Airbnb and all that, saying that you are not legal, but still they are going on. So either the law changes, these people won't change. So products or assets ownership seems to be not important as things are developing. And now people are saying you don't need to own a car. You can call Uber. And if you own a car, it is 95% of the time it is in your garage or in the parking lot. And another thing that is going to come probably is you need not have to own a house. You need not have to own a house. You can rent it. And like in the US, wherever you go, you can rent it at a similar place. As long as the rented resources are available, which are convenient, which suit your needs. Why do you want something? It's not needed. So basically, at least in my family, my wife, she used to wait for me to drive her here and there and so on. But now she calls Voila and then goes wherever she wants, either shopping or a friend's place, whatever. So this is happening in Bangalore and other places. So I'm just telling her that why should we own this car? We can sell it. So this is the kind of thing that is happening in this one. And there is what is called $1 trillion club. For the past decade, 6 technology companies, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Google, Netflix, and Pandora have collectively generated $1 trillion market value. US GDP is 15 trillion. These 6 companies probably has maybe about 20,000 employees together. They cater to almost like 1/15 of the US. It doesn't include all the auto companies, all the real estate, all the other things, and so on. And Nokia, Motorola, Borders, Barnes Noble, Kodak, AOL, they all went bankrupt. They lost their value. Companies sell the same products, share the same supply chain, one goes bankrupt, other thrives. Now, as analytical researchers, we had to find out the reason why what is happening. So earlier we said supply chain is the one that matters. Now we had to move up a little bit and then see supply chain is important. You have to create products, services, and all that. Without that, you are not in the business. But above that, you have to do something. What is that? So that is the $1 trillion club. Let us see the startup scenario. There are 4,000 startups, and enablers of the new technologies are the ones that are this one. And the government is encouraging. They have created a lot of funding for all the education institutions and so on. This is like the periodic table which shows the startups in 2015. All this fintech, consumer to fintech to tech. You have all these startups which have come up from this. And one thing you should note, these startups, A, they are all small. B, they are not funded by the banks. They are not funded by the government. They are funded by the private agencies, VCs, venture capitalists. And it is called casino funding. The VCs think, all right, I'm funding 10 companies. If one makes, I make my money. So that is called casino funding. But earlier it was not like that. If I have a company, I have a product R&D department, I spend my own money for the R&D and so on. So I'm doing product financing. Now it is casino financing. So there is the age of unicorns. Technology is crowded with unicorns, $1 billion startups. There are 175 startups which are $1 billion, and decatrons like decacorns, which are basically 10 billion valuations like Airbnb, Uber, and all that. And this is an interesting slide. How long will it take for you to become a billionaire? The first company, AirWatch, it took 364 days from start to exit. 364 days, not 365, for the AirWatch. And of course, the dot jet is Walmart has acquired dot jet, and that is basically 741 days and so on. You can say WhatsApp, it took 3 years, but they paid the 14 or 15 or 19 billion dollars for this. So they are basically, the exit becomes very important. So if you are in the startup business, I mean, every startup wants to exit. It's not that as though you want to go to your business, and that is the one of the psyches that influences their temporary nature of the startup world. But that is not very correct. I mean, the startup can become companies of the future. So what are from this data, what are the important studies that needed for us? One is industries of the previous era are struggling to survive. In India we have all these Kishore Biyani's companies, Reliance as well as Big Bazaar and all that. They are trying to do various kinds of things to this one. Well, people like IBM and others are struggling. And how do they reorganize themselves? Now, for example, Uber is going to influence all the auto companies. So what do they do? One thing, like I was telling Jabjit, that these companies think, if you look at the auto data today, last year they said they are selling the same thing. This year they said, it has come down to 90%. And this is like a frog. If you put a frog in the boiling water, then immediately it jumps out. But if the frog is there and water starts slowly heating, then it will not know what it is. So a lot of these companies may not realize what is happening, and to this, so they need to see and reorganize themselves. So how do they do it? I mean, there are companies like IBM which did it. There are companies like SAP which did it. How did they do it, and so on? What are the issues? So new startups should be blockbusters of the future. So how should they be designed and built? And decline in the valuation of traditional industries, rise of unicorn startups. Is this a hype? A lot of people, you must be seeing, a lot of people think that it is a hype. Or is it an economic paradigm shift? Like the car has done, so is ICT going to change the industry structure like steam, coal power, internal combustion engineers did? Do we see creation of new industries, new economies, and new world order? Is the mobile phone analog of Ford's car of 1930? Well, these are the questions that one needs to answer. I'll try to partially answer some of them, but I mean, these are very important questions that need a lot of analysis and thinking. Studies on generalized business models. That's my thinking, is an area of importance. That's where we go into the general models. So let's see, what is a business model according to me? Business model has, I don't know how many of you know about this Oswalder's business model canvas. There was some work earlier done I mean, if you look at the literature type business model, then you will get a lot of literature into this. But most of it is not analytical. They'll take some information here and there and so on. So I was trying to, being an operations guy, so I was trying to look at what is the performance of a startup. Can you tell me how do you measure the performance of a startup? It's not known. So let's see. 8 components. One is the customer value proposition. What is the one that has to identify the job to fulfill? What is the value? What is it that we are offering to the customer? How many segments of customers? Most of us in the product era, you have only one customer. You are selling the product, he buys it and pays for it. But not anymore. You take Google, it gives you email free. How does it make money? By selling your address to somebody else, right? So it pays through advertising, whereas it gives you something free. So Google has 2 or 3 customer segments, and for each customer segment, what it gives as product or service is different, and what is the revenue model is different. So that is the kind of thing that people should think. Everybody thinks there is only product, and that kind of thinking has to change. Then second one is the profit formula, defines how company creates value for itself. And cost and profit for each customer segment. What is the revenue model? Is it pay-per-use model? Or is it a subscription model? Or is it product model? What is it that this one? I mean, sometimes you may have several alternatives. For example, Netflix. It has subscription model. A pay-per-use model, it didn't do well. Change it to subscription model. It is doing okay. So basically, you may have to rethink, do whatever. And of course, the supply chain, service chain to manufacture the product and services. And of course, you have to deliver it to the customers, distribution channels to the customer segments, and an execution dashboard to find out how you are delivering. These are the first 4 of the 8 components. The second one is a partner network. Now, in the supply chain arena, your partner network is your suppliers, logistics providers, distributors, and all that. But that is not enough anymore. You have to partner with your government, because supposing you're Google. Now, Google, how does it make money? It makes through advertising. It gives you free. But when Amazon came, you log into Amazon and your address is Amazon. And FMCG accounts for 50-60% of your sales and data and so on. So Google is missing that data. So it bought .jet. So you have to basically be very clear of what your partner network is. Now, for example, there are some lines which flies to 2-tier, 3-tier towns. For example, Vijayawada or Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. When they fly, most of these people, airlines are given free grounding fees. They say otherwise we won't go there. So the government says, look, you give free grounding fees, and they say. So it is not the profit by selling your product. You want to reduce your cost by getting benefits from your partners. Either it is the government or it is your other service providers and so on. So you have to identify companies, individuals who benefit from your venture, who can share your costs and promote revenues. And resources, of course, natural, financial, digital. That becomes very, very important now with all this needed in the supply chain, and institutional and social constraints. You have to follow regulations, policies, taxes. You have to worry about industry organizations, privacy, labor laws, and so on. Now, Airbnb, Uber, they didn't care for this. So they got into trouble. Because everybody says Uber, they're taxi drivers, they are not employees, so they are not paid for their health insurance and so on. So, but the regulations require that they have to pay. And if you take Airbnb, go to a particular place and stay, and somebody, the guest slips and then he fractures, who will pay for the insurance? So there are all the kinds of these regulations that need to be followed and adhered to. And organizational governance. Governance is, what is the governance and what we are used to in terms of, it is not board governance, it is organizational governance. We are used to having the president, vice presidents, and so on, this industry structure. But is that the one? Because here you are a small company and you are a part of a network. And your partner network and other things, who will determine if I am Airbnb, if I go to Italy or some other place, who are going to be my partners? Who is going to do the business for it? If I come to Ahmedabad, who is going to be my taxi fellows? How am I going to contact them? So the governance structure, operational governance structure becomes very important. And then you have to coordinate, you have to execute, and you have to do basic governance. And out of these 8, I talked to most of the startups. 90% of them don't have customer value proposition. They say we are making a product, somebody provides a service, and then I'll sell it and then do this. They don't have the governance structure. Oh, I have a board, something, and all that. Let me have a product, and afterwards I will see. But I asked them several of these questions. They don't. And they say, we are a small company, we don't have the resources, we will do it when we become big. But I keep telling them, look, you are all IITs or NIT graduates. While before going for the exam, you studied for 8 years or 4 years for your JEE and all that. When you are having a startup which is going to be your future, why don't you spend a month to do the analysis, talk to people? But most of them seems to have some other mindset. So you have these 8 things, and you can find some of this, but not in the format. But 2 things which governance and institutional and social constraints you don't find in other places. But according to me, they are important. I'll show you why. So what is a business model? It's a description. You make the product, use your supply chain, make a product or service. And while making this product or service, you use the resources. And you deliver to your customers using your delivery channels. And you follow all the government rules, regulations, and you generate profits. And also, you have a network of partners, because you are a small company and you have to choose your partners and so on. So what is this? If you take Uber or if you take any of them, what are the problems as a startup they have? One of the fundamental problems they have, choosing good partners. Another problem is, what is your revenue model? What is your value proposition? People have to think about this and write down. So you have basically these pillars. There are 4 of them, which is supply chain, resources, institutions, and value chains. And you have value proposition, you have partners to share cost and bring revenues, you have the profit formula, and you have the governance. Now these 4, I will try to expand and show you. For example, supplier service chain. In earlier days, you have only one supplier. Now you have several customers. You have primary customers, their process is different. You have secondary customers, their process is different. You have domain-specific hardware, software. In other words, if you take Google, for example, Google is a e-commerce company. It has to make algorithms. It has to have mobile connectivity and all that. Using those, it has to make mobile apps and all that. So it should have that domain-specific hardware, software, and social networking with governments and partners, and then new revenue sponsors. So your process is got expanded. Whenever you write this, you say, I start from suppliers, manufacturers, distributors, and retailers. That is the supply chain. But here, it has got expanded depending on your, and of course, there are government taxes, legal quality issues, center state governments, and so on. And here resources are mobile internet, social media, and cloud. Because if you are a retailer, how do you know what people are buying? You have to do recommender systems using SMAC, social media, mobile internet, and all that. Water power, of course, resources, market intelligence, mobile apps, partner network, infrastructure, human resources, R&D, innovation, and all that. And of course, here you have cost-sharing partners or sponsors. When you are delivering something, it's not just the product fellow who buys, you get the money. But there could be others. For example, a government for the airlines, or an advertiser who uses your advertising, you get all that. So you have to make a tremendous amount of analysis, not just on product. Who is getting benefited? How do I charge them? So it combines your marketing strategy, operations, everything. And that's what you could do your business model. Of course, you can say retail, for example. For that, you can say warehousing, home delivery. You have a warehouse, you deliver products. Procurement from OEMs and dealers, how do you procure? And connections with drop shippers, 3PLs, and so on. And high speed, Wi-Fi, data access, mobile alerts, cyber security, and all that. And you have government regulations. On e-retail, there are no taxes. They don't pay service taxes. But why? When you get a product, they're not. Karnataka government is now saying they are charging 4%. But I don't know whether that is true or not. But they are charging government regulations, taxes, VCs, IPO acquisitions, political, social activists, brick and mortar retailers, because they are your competitors. Here, customer engagement, marketing platform. How do you engage with your customer? Relations with SMEs and productization. You know, how do you, because you are getting, with your apparels, you are getting it all from SMEs. And software R&D, market intelligence, mobile internet, technical intensive human financial resources, you know, like mobile wallets and all that, warehousing, IoT enabled delivery platforms. So it's all highly technology intensive. You have returns and damages. COD, links with suppliers, drop shippers, back office, last mile delivery, credit card, cash on delivery, order monitoring, mobile alerts, relationship with partners, ratings, and so on. So you have to make this analysis and have this in mind, and then do your business. Sorry? No cash on delivery, yes. This slide was made before demonetization. So let me give you some examples. I will give you an example of a cement company. You must have heard of cement, but it has changed a little bit. Cemex is one of the largest, this one. Its value proposition is not delivering cement, delivering the construction products and services to its customer segments. And smart logistics, partner network, and so on. Distributors created a distributor network. It created small house constructors, and it has large infrastructure projects. It has 3 customer segments. And for all of them, they provide. And it has a CEO has a dashboard to monitor kiln temperatures to project's progress, and so on. And of course, it's one of the very examples. I give this example because it's a brick and mortar company doing all these kind of things earlier. And if you can handle cement, you can handle almost anything. So handles business which is 5 times that of cement. So that's why it has become the 3rd or 4th largest company. Apple and Google, of course, iPod is successful is because of the MP3 player. MP3 player is successful because of iTunes. It sells both iTunes as well as that. And just iPad, it was not very successful. So Google created user-friendly platform for free services as well as revenue streams from advertising and so on. So you can see these kind of examples and get this. Of course, you can write the Google business model and so on. So almost anything that you have, Facebook to anything, you can write this business model. So what are the patterns? Like when you construct a house, you have a pattern. You have bedroom, you have a living room, you have this. When you make a city, you have a pattern. So what is the business model patterns? Towns, building, construction follow this one. Each pattern describes a problem which occurs over and over again. So one thing you should understand is you are not inventing anything new. These business models always existed. And all that you have to do some search and find what is the one that works for you. And so there, resonant blade. You heard of resonant blade? You get the razor almost free. You pay for the blade. Same thing is followed in cartridges and this one. Long tail, that's followed by Amazon and others. And multi-sided platforms and very this one, freemium. You get something free and then another kinds, unbundling. Heard of unbundling? Unbundling, that operations guys know, is a company has 3 things. One is product innovation, second is infrastructure management, and third one is innovation. But here, today unbundling means whatever you do, you can basically split it into several companies. Banks, for example, retail, investment in this one, and all that you can split it to 6 or 7 companies. And each of them can be different partners, and they can be network. They can work together through a network. So this unbundling is one thing that is happening in all sectors of the economy. Particularly, I suspect, I don't know whether you guys agree or not, that banks in India are going to disappear in the next 5 years. I always tell all the youngsters, don't join a bank. Open models. Open models, that is, in olden days, innovation is all closed. Now it is open. And cloud, of course, the cloud business model. So you need not have to have anything. You can basically software as service, platform as service, infrastructure as service, and all that. Data as service, analytics as service. If you have a startup, you can go to Google, all the algorithms, everything is there, use their cloud. You can run your program and then do it. You need not have to have anything, including your memories, this one, including the algorithms and all that. All the standard data processing algorithms are available on Google or even Amazon. So that's the kind of this one we are in. IoT business models, peer-to-peer, shared service. So that right from handbags to everything is, you need not have to buy anything, so you can share. 6 core functions of financial services: payments, market positioning, investment management, insurance, deposits and lending, capital raising. All these are going to be different. As I said, supply chain financing investment management are all going to be this one, and payment, they are going to be done by different companies. So their revenue models, I mean, commerce, like selling physical product, subscriptions, licensing, auctions and bids, advertising, freemium, and intermediation, brokerage, and so on. And there is a Harvard article in sometime in 2015, what is common between the Airbnb and others, and that is what it says. And it has shown the maximum profit today is done by orchestrators. Orchestrators are the people who own nothing and they manage everything. This is like companies like Li and Fang and all that. So they are the most profitable. Whereas asset builders who own the assets and build things, they are the least profitable. Now, this doesn't mean the asset people who manufacture cars are not important. They are important, all right. But the point is, they should know that they won't be as profitable. And they should not try to depend on that to do this one. For example, IBM, I mean, they have invented all these PCs. They have invented the laptops and all that. I mean, they have sold it to Lenovo and walked out. At that time, people said, oh, why did IBM do this? And so on. One of the reasons is they don't have the scale. And they know that they're not able to manage this. So they sold it. And Lenovo manufactures, Flexatronics manufactures this, they have the scale because they do it for a lot of people and so on. So it all depends. You have to analyze company by company and so on. So on this, let me come back to my own version of the framework. So what is the, I mean, if I have a company and it is a startup or something nowadays, what is the thing, what are my performance measures? In olden days, I used to have supply chain cost reduction. I say lead time. We use queuing theory and all that to find out lead time, reduce, optimize and all that. But it is not nowadays. What is it? So you have all these value chain delivery institutions, resources and so on. What are the resources? Digital platform, mobile internet, partners, social network, team, and you have institutions which are customs, regulations and so on. You have all these infrastructure. What are the performance measures? Primary customers, secondary customers, cost and profit. Each time I ask, who are my partners? How am they going to help me to reduce my cost, increase my profit? So if I'm doing government with business with the government, I am not interested. I'm saying, are they going to reduce my cost? They are going to reduce cost need not have to be increasing your product cost. It can be reducing the taxes. So you have to basically look at your customers for each of the customer segments, what is the cost and profit and so on. So you now talk of profits, not cost. This diagram I used to teach when I used to have cost, but now it is profits. Supply chain, products, secondary value chain holders, social connections and all that, who will reduce my cost and increase my profit. And similarly, domain-specific hardware, software for delivery to primary, secondary markets. And sponsors, value partners, mobile internet, talent, industry, logistics, and so on. Taxes, tariffs, labor laws, sponsoring social groups. And coordination costs, broker fees. I mean, you can add some more if you want. So the point I'm making is this. It's not product and all that. Who are your customers? How are you going to deliver the value? That's one thing. Who are your partners? How are they going to help me to reduce my cost, increase my profit? So you should look at in a different way than the earlier this one. This includes whether you are selling an automobile, whether you are selling a cell phone, or you are doing a service, and so on. So how can firms increase their revenues or decrease their costs using stakeholders? So there's this must be known to you. What is the growth strategy once you have this one? So the growth strategies are, you have a core business, you can have new channels, new businesses, new products, new customer segments, and so on. This is from a fellow called Juke Jadwo. Okay, he has a book on his growth strategies and so on. So you have the expansion, and you have cross-industry innovation. Cross-industry innovation is existing solutions from other industries. Can you use them? CII cuts down the cost and risk. And Henry Ford said, I invented nothing. I simply assembled a car, the discoveries of other men who were behind other industries. He took the assembly line concept from big industry and so on. We have a lot of examples, that there are cases even from IIMA on this Arvind Netralaya and all that, where they have followed the Burger King and other models and so on. So this is not known, but the point is, when you are a startup, I have to think everything originally and so on. But you can look around and find good models, and that will help you to save your time. And this is one thing that people never look at, that is risk. Your value proposition is the biggest risk. Why are the old industries are in trouble today? Because their earlier proposition in retail is, the customer comes to me, whenever he comes, I have to provide him a product as he likes, and I make profit from that. So it is selling product. But now it is not that. Now you have 80% of the products that you buy is basically from 20% of the customers, but the volumes, although they are lower for each. For example, you go to a bookstore, you want Bhagavad Gita. In the bookstore, you may not find it, but you go to Amazon, you can buy it. So this is long tail models, where this one, that value proposition and need for supply chain processes is the biggest risk, because they are very hard. You have built them over years, and it takes time. And if you want to change them, it takes time. And sometimes it is risk. And partner risk. I mean, you must have heard drivers, house providers, delivery boys, they are doing the drivers doing all kinds of things, and breach of trust, misuse of information, changes in the revenue model, and supply chain counterfeit. I mean, I don't know how much it's true, because I didn't buy this, but they say most of the products you buy online, including cell phones, could be counterfeit, because there's no way we can check. And fake reviews, they say this book, Viswanadham's book, is excellent, and I can ask a few of my friends to write this one. And they say there's fake reviews. Lack of full cost disclosure. They will say, after this one, they will say $1,500, and when your bill comes, this is like your airline fare. When you're buying online, it shows $1,100 or something. When you finally pay, it is $1,600, right? So that is the kind of thing, that full lack of this one, and so on. So there's several of lack of flexibility in the production process. Resource related, this one. Yeah, and then institutional risks. For example, demonetization has created cash on delivery problems and all that. And then risk due to delivery infrastructure and so on. So you have to consider all these risks that can happen. Order arrives on time, no execution and governance mechanism. Now, most important thing and the final thing is the governance. What is the governance? I mean, you are trying to deliver something to your customer, right? How do you know what is the kind of this one that it is finally delivered to the customer and he is happy about it. So governance is an inter-organizational business network, because you are a small part of big network. You are working with other people of the network, and they have to cooperate. You should have a relationship with them, and it is finally your responsibility to keep your customer value proposition to your customers. So without governance, you have Alexander problem. Alexander has invented a lot of things. He has this one, but there is no governance. So this is the governance business model. You have customer, you have service provider. Supposing service provider is Uber or Ola, and you are the customer. You call for the taxi from IIM. Where does the taxi come from? In the surroundings. Supposing you call a taxi from your home somewhere. They say, where does the taxi come from? That surroundings. Supposing you are in Delhi, you call the taxi from somewhere in Delhi. Where does the taxi come from? It comes from the surroundings of that. So you are present at some place, in some location, and they are able to send the taxi to you from in and around that location. How do they know your location? Sorry, whatever. I am not saying it is impossible. They are doing it. So that's where they are matching the partner, your service provider to you, and you are this one. They are matching you to a service provider who is nearby, who can come within 5 minutes using GPS and other mobile apps and so on. So they know where you are, they know where the taxi is, they are connecting both of you. That's the partner matching. Now, what are the algorithms that Google uses for partner matching? Google never tells you, but that is the one that they use. Same thing with Airbnb. You are going to some place in Sweden, and you say, I want to visit this place and that place and so on. So they will match you with somebody's house, some household and so on. So how do they match? So all this requires partner matching. So there are algorithms that you need once you know either your location or your needs to what they can provide with that. And once I tell this, you can see it can be based on the data that is available, or it can be a deep learning algorithm or machine learning, or it can be an optimization, whatever, it's possible. So, but that's the first thing you need to do. Second thing is coordination. Once the driver knows where you are, and then he can see on the on the Google Maps, and then he comes to wherever you are and picks you up. And once he picks you up, then he will drop you wherever you want, and all this is mapped, and he will charge you whatever, and you pay either cash or something. And if it is possible, if your child or your wife or somebody is going where, or your father is going where there is a concern about their safety, then you can have an alarm where that they are dropped at various places. So all this is coordination. And all this we know, we do scheduling. That's basically scheduling algorithms that from where you are to where you want to go. That's the scheduling problem. And finally, execution, which execution is you have to basically do the dashboard analysis of this. This is not done, but now with all these accidents and other things that are happening, they are doing the execution. So this governance has 3 features. Partner matching. You can take any example. You can split it to 3. And if you want to do the algorithm development, if you are there, the partner matching can be formulated as fuzzy AHP or MIP. One can rank order the suppliers for each component based on the ecosystem parameters. You can use transaction cost economics, there's models and so on. And coordination scheduling problems can be solved using optimization. I'm sorry. And expert systems, decision support, and case-based reasoning and hybrid control systems are used for exception management and execution. So that is the GRIP network. So finally, incumbents should map their business model and analyze the changes in CVP, SCN, and resources. Most of them don't. Business model elements such as CVP, SCN should be adaptive to technology and institutional changes. Partner network using multi-sided platform is currently a game changer. I mean, all of us know the partner network or digital platforms are the ones that are used by Uber, Airbnb, and others, and so on. For example, people like SAP, there is a HANA, HANA platform. They bring in all the other players and then supply all the software and so on. Why are they doing it? That's basically they want to become a multi-sided platform for this kind of. Similarly, IBM and others, they are trying to become platform companies from just service providers. And incumbents should develop ambidextrous capabilities, navigating industry disruption, exploit existing opportunities, simultaneously reinvent and explore new growth areas. I mean, even people like Google and others, they invest in a lot of startups. And these startups are basically trying to, they acquire the startups once they develop, if they feel they are doing okay. I mean, Cisco does this same thing. And their employees are given funding for startups and so on. And incumbents can avoid being victims of change by using their reach and influence to become orchestrator of change. Now, one thing you can move, instead of making a product, you can outsource that product and become an orchestrator. A lot of companies did this with the globalization and so on. So that can, orchestrators coordinate diverse players that share their capabilities to accelerate market development and so on. So Lee and Fangmer and others are a lot of examples of these companies, which started as logistics companies, and they became orchestrators later, and things are happening. So that's my pitch, I think. But the one question that I raised, I didn't answer is this ICT a game changer, and it is going to be a permanent, or is it a hype? And my answer to that is it is going to be a permanent changer. And whatever disruptions you are seeing are going to be this one. I mean, this is the major techno-economic paradigms are 70 to 80-40 is early mechanization, 1830 to 1890 steam power and railways, 80 to 40 is electrical and heavy engineering, 30 to 80 is Fordist mass production. Now information and communication from Intel, this one. And now these two periods are 60, 70 years each period, and we have finished the deployment period, first 30, 40 years, and then it is going to be investment. So you are going to see so much of digitization of almost every industry into the future. From, I mean, you can see a lot of them, smart homes, smart cars, and smart services and all that. Thanks very much, and that's my presentation. If you have any questions, comments.
Can I share, please? Because innovative models, what we talked about, Uber is losing daily, Flipkart is losing daily. So what is the move forward? What's going to be the situation?
Which one?
Uber, for example.
Uber is losing what?
They're subsidizing the travel for even,
Yes.
and they're losing it.
Yes.
I don't know whether they lose in US or other countries. In India, they're definitely losing it. Same way Flipkart and
See, that's the model that, because they have deep pockets, they want to raise, that's a market.
I don't know whether they can sustain or not.
So in that scenario, this particular business model will be sustainable and it can be an example for the people. That's one question. Second one is, what are the important, enablers? The government subsidizes some of the technology, the routes, all the processes. For example, if you talk about GPS in India, the satellite provision by the government is one of the critical component in the
Yeah, but the government is trying to get Facebook and others to have Wi-Fi in the villages and all that, and they are encouraging the space department to have all these satellites and all that. But one thing is there, to develop all these technologies through across the country, it takes time. So, but this happened even in earlier. In my childhood, there was no car in my village. Now every house has a car. So the things will develop as that. But the point I'm making is, even in people in big cities, like Delhi, Bangalore, or Ahmedabad or something, they should follow business models and become examples. And like, for example, they have the sachets for this one. Maybe there could be some other models for the villages. So it is possible, this one. But your question is that about why they are offering these discounts. I don't know.
I'm not questioning the discounts. Will it be a sustainable business model for others to emulate? That's the point.
Obviously, the venture financial
Yeah,
people who are providing the deep pockets believe so. But I think they are also taking a call, because out of many, few will survive.
No, the question still is important and we should not explain it because it may lead to a bubble burst,
Yes, yes.
And then it is not catch.
It will, like see, Uber, there are today 100 in India alone attempts in the trucking segment.
Yeah, that's right.
Who are trying to match this, because it looks like an obvious need. But my sense is none of them have made it. And this is where it goes back to your point that, see, asset light, asset heavy. What you're saying is all those big guys, they themselves don't own assets. But there are others who own assets.
Yes,
Obviously, assets are required.
Required.
There is no question about it. Now, if the base asset quality is good, then it's okay. In India, maybe local taxi services, it's okay. So today there is one disruptive innovation in trucking which has gone big, and there are a few who are now trying to follow. A company called Rivigo, you may want to study about it, where he wanted to start the same way, Uber and Ola, but he realized that the asset base is not good. He can't, there is no mechanism by which he can get a properly certified truck from the market and a driver with which he can guarantee to the customer that yes, delivery will be made. So they decided to get into asset ownership. So he's become now the third largest fleet owner in the country in 2 years. Now, so that's one issue, and I think in India especially, I'm seeing even warehousing. There is a lot of opportunity to do this like Airbnb in the warehousing space. But I'm not sure, the real good warehouses are those who are themselves back-ending. But can we get third-party warehouses of high quality which you can then,
It's happening in the US.
Sure. No, I won't be surprised.
Yeah.
Because see, the base quality is so high and there is underutilization.
Yeah.
In that high quality of asset, there is underutilization, so these efficiencies come in. So anyway, that
Blackbuck, you must have heard that.
yes, but I'm not sure they are okay.
Yeah,
Because Blackbuck just lost one of their top executives last week. I don't know, he wants to do something. That was one. The other is, of course, this one is interesting. World Economic Forum also, which tries to take the macro view and predict the future. Because they call it that we are going through the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah, Industry 4.0.
Yeah, but there I was just trying to map it with the way this adaptation has come. The first and second is actually viewed as single. Basically machinery coming in to enhance human output. Second one, they were bringing the mass production, where you're defining
Yeah.
tasks in a way that you can enhance. Third is already automation. Automation, localized computing, automation, robotics, all these they are putting in the third. Fourth is network.
Network, IoT,
When now you are not only having automation, but you are having automation that is, can be anywhere, through centralized processors. That they say we have still not comprehended fully.
I know.
That's
IoT,
the fourth industrial revolution.
Industry
So that's
4.0
the,
is the one.
whereas computers, localized computing, PCs and robotics, all that they have put under third, that we have already mastered it. So now the fourth is this. Anyway, that was interesting.
Yes.
You see, the new business models are very much, one of the components that we are talking about is partnerships.
Yeah.
These are having more and more partnerships,
Yeah.
and some of them spanning continents and countries and so on and so forth. Which means that for the sustainability of these models, this international political stability and relations, they are going to play a very important role.
That's one of the
And I don't know whether we have the political visionary leadership, with people like Trump winning the election and so on.
And just coming from Raghuram talk, in fact, the nuanced talk was more towards doomsday. Because he was saying that the whole idea of globalization, actually today, because in a way, education and people's mindset is not able to keep up with technology. So, but if you want to politically govern, you have to worry about those who are not able to keep up.
Right.
So, people like Trump and Brexit are coming in, and Italy now.
Yes.
So, chances are there may be more conservatism and not global. What impact it will have on IT-based, global networks?
So, therefore, continuing with that idea, what we seem to be needing more today is the European Union should expand into a world union. Whereas actually, Raghuram very probably might have said, there is a danger that it is moving in the opposite direction.
That's true, but then you see the point, there are a lot of this one that this globalization is going to regionalization and regionalization to within the country and so on. So, these things are all dependent on several factors, but the fundamental point I'm making is when your business has to be flexible, and you should have not only think about president, vice president, this kind of things, but you should think of the future innovations, how technology is going to affect you, and find out those risks and map those risks into.
Okay, sir, going for the same logic what just now was said, don't you think the business model which we cover everything, almost the customer value and everything we are covered, don't you think another option, that is that how the business is going to give back to the society?
That for the society.
If we cover that portion, then probably we might not
You can write a business model for the society-based companies. If you're talking of an NGO.
No, that's not talking about this. One thing that all the business model that you talked about does not talk about the thing that the business is going to give back to the society. Like for example, what Dr. Raghuram said is something towards the doomsday, we are going towards the doomsday situation. Why?
No, that's because of what Raghu or anybody says is because of the regulations. For example, demonetization. It has affected to COD. You cannot blame the government does whatever it wants to do, but then that affects your this one. So you have to basically go from COD to credit card based this one and all that. You should be able to change this. And while Trump's victory is because of the middle class or lower middle class in certain regions, so he is going to say no outsourcing, no this one and all that, and that is going to affect all the companies. So these kind of things.
If you start thinking of automation, when you are going to pull out the people from the jobs, and finally if you don't have jobs, then how will the business going to run? Therefore, what I'm trying to say is that in the business model, if you think about the creation of jobs and the empowerment of the people down below who can again fuel your business. is what is going to be sustainable model than
I think we should
leave that also.
Thank you.